Do you have a son or a daughter that is clean from drugs and alcohol, but you find yourself in a constant state of fear and anxiety waiting for the other shoe to drop? You're so used to them relapsing, you just know that it's going to happen again, and it's driving you crazy. That is what we're discussing in this episode. Enjoy the show. Here we are, Real Recovery Talk. I'm your host, Tom Conrad. In today's episode, we've got Benjamin B.
What's happening, everyone?
And we have me. What's up, Ben?
Chilling, Tom. How are you?
Good. First things first, thank you for tuning in on the podcast app, whichever one that you choose to use, and thank you for watching on YouTube. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com, and ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message, right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
I think we have about 12 people in our family reconnect right now. I'm pretty impressed. I think it's going rather well.
I have fun with it. I keep saying that, but fun in the respect that it's nice that people are hearing what they need to hear and more being validated for essentially sticking to principles of helping loved ones, because it can be hard and sometimes you just need to be told you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. It's reassurance, you know? It's a lot of direction, a lot of reassurance, a lot of good feedback. And I think one of the coolest things is seeing the other group members kind of work together, you know what I mean? And give each other feedback and stuff like that. And it's not group therapy. It's not. I don't think. I think it's anteed up from that, because it's a lot of it is like, sometimes in group therapy, especially in an in-person setting, people often say what they feel like the other person wants to hear. And here, I think because it's virtual, it's more raw. You know what I mean? Like, you're not sitting next to somebody, which is kind of contrary to how I would normally feel. But that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting, you know? And some of them are they're not warmed up yet, so they don't know us as well.
Yeah, it's cool watching, for instance, like you just mentioned, the newer people. A lot of times they sit quiet, but the people that have been with us the last few weeks since it started, like now that they're warmed up and talking more, it's given them the opportunity, quote unquote, to do a 12-step, if you will. Like they're getting to take their knowledge and share it and be vulnerable and be authentic and have the courage to share. And I think for people that are new and are sitting quietly, you know, because Tom will ask, like, hey, you don't have to share. You don't even have to turn the camera on, you know, and a couple of them don't on their first time.
Yeah.
But like, it gives the others the opportunity to essentially be leaders in this thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. So if you want to learn more about it, go to realrecoverytalk.com/FRC, and you can get the details, or you can email us info@realrecoverytalk.com, and we'll share everything. But one of the topics that got brought up in the Sobriety Network, which is one of our Facebook groups, is, and this is from a mom, and she said, like, she's in this perpetual waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Her son right now is clean and sober and has been clean and sober for quite some time. But with that, she's in this constant state of fear. I think it's more of a trauma response. And so we thought this would be a good topic to discuss today, because we don't really talk about this a whole lot. What do you do when your loved one is clean and sober? How do you act? How do you respond? How do you just facilitate everyday life? And is there a realistic world that we can live in where we're not constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop? And I think a lot of parents and loved ones will resonate with this. But before we get into it, you got anything?
No, just once somebody's clean and sober, essentially that's more than ever your opportunity to start enjoying your own life.
Yeah.
Start scheduling things for you. You should have been doing that before, but people struggle with that. But taking care of yourself.
Yeah. So we have this broken down into 5 different, and I have my notes up just so you, if you're watching on YouTube, I have a giant 75-inch screen TV that's directly behind the camera that I can put my notes up on. And so we have this broken down into 5 different topics. And so we're going to cover each one briefly, and then hopefully you can get a lot out of this. Now the first one is when the how many times have you heard the phrase the calm before the storm?
Endlessly.
Living in South Florida, I oftentimes use a hurricane analogy. And Ben, you being native of South Florida, you've been through plenty hurricanes.
Ton.
What happens when the eye of the storm is over you?
The eye of the storm is calm. People tend to go outside that don't know what they're doing. They're like, oh, it's past.
Yeah.
They go out in the middle. Little do they realize
that the other side of the storm is coming.
The eye wall is coming.
Yes. And that, I think, is one of the best analogies that I ever could come up with. What do you think of that, Ben? Pretty good analogy, right?
Yeah. The storm came. Now you're chilling, and another eye wall coming.
Yeah. So a lot of times, and the eye could be sobriety. Now, the good thing is that you could live in the eye of the storm forever. Maybe the other side of the storm doesn't come, but maybe it does, and we don't know. But why I think family members and loved ones are in this, number one point is a lot of times the peace that we are supposed to feel when our loved one is clean and sober oftentimes instills even more fear than when they were actively using. Because when they were actively using, at least we knew. They were actively using, they're in jail, they're homeless, but now they're clean, now they're sober, and we don't want them to go back there. And it's kind of this, Hey, look, having somebody in your life that is addicted to drugs or alcohol, it can be stressful. We totally get it. We've navigated hundreds, if not thousands of situations just like yours. This is why we developed the Family Reconnect program with you in mind, the family member or loved one. I call it the ever-changing landscape of addiction, and it can be stressful. A lot of times you get angry, frustrated, worried, scared, just a lot of emotion, but you need support. You need people like us and your peers that can come alongside you to help you navigate this situation. This is why we put this program together. We meet every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. We're a few weeks in now, and it's an absolute blast. We love it, and we want to invite you there. So if this is something that you're interested in, go to realrecoverytalk.com/FRC, and I'll see you on Tuesday.
That's a result of your own trauma.
Yeah.
Throughout the process. To think that the addict and alcoholic is the only one with trauma is the furthest thing from the truth. In fact, I would beg to differ. I'm going to give my opinion on this one. I don't know if it's fact, but hence we've had mothers on our podcast whose kids have overdosed. I'm willing to bet it was more terrifying for the mother to have their kid overdose than the kid actually overdosing. That makes sense. You wake up in the hospital as the addict and you're like, oh, what happened? Where with the mother witnessing the whole thing, completely stone cold sober, living through it.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's trauma.
It is. And that's why I said in the beginning why I think all these are basically a trauma response. So basically this is kind of like an emotional whiplash type approach. Like they're using and then they're clean. And then they relapse. And then it's like, okay, we're back here. And then they're clean again and they're back here. So it's a really frustrating place to be. But I think the strongest message and we say this all the time, understand that you have an outcome that you would like to see, but you never attach yourself to that outcome. And the closer that you can get to that place, the more freed you're going to be. And you're not going to wait in this constant state of perpetual fear that they're going to relapse. Point number 2 is hypervigilance. Hypervigilance meaning you're constantly just over analyzing everything. How many times, Ben, do we see this with parents, family members, loved ones that they're just hovering and waiting
Mhm.
for some sort of action or some sort of symptom that reminds them of active use. This could be slurred speech. This could be bloodshot eyes. This could be constantly wearing a hoodie when it's 90 degrees outside, covering up track marks.
Lack of communication falls off when
Yeah.
people get sober. I wanna throw this out there since that thought came to mind for me. A lot of the times, because we see this and we see it in Family Reconnect where someone will be concerned, "Oh, my kid's sober, they moved on to sober living," for instance, and all of a sudden I haven't heard from them for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, there's gotta be something wrong, and in fact, a lot of the times it's quite the opposite, where if you think about it, when an addict is in distress, I'll speak for myself. I was always blowing up my parents because I needed something. I wanted something. I was sick. I needed to borrow some money, whatever the case is. All of a sudden I get sober and now I'm not calling them. It might be a good thing, but I hear that a lot.
Well, sometimes when addicts and alcoholics, we get clean and sober, we start to understand that we have merit over our lives. We can start making decisions for ourselves. Um, and sometimes those decisions are I'm going to disconnect from my family members and my loved ones for a period of time. They may feel that that's one of the healthiest things that they can do for themselves.
The hypervigilance too can also be a negative on the alcoholic addict. If you're a parent or loved one and you're constantly like inspecting, if you will, like a private investigator, if your loved one catches on, they're going to be quite annoyed.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. You don't necessarily, I'm not saying you got to tiptoe around them by any means. Anybody in somebody's shoes dealing with an addict or an alcoholic has the right to be skeptical. I mean, how many times have you been through stuff? But at the same time, give them their space. Quit being a helicopter.
Yeah, and it's tricky to balance, which but leads us into number 3, which is, and I'm going to reference your mom on this one, Ben. False hope versus more reality, right? And the reason I want to reference your mom is because, and you've shared this story often, when she basically shared with you that, like, I'm just going to spend whatever time I have left with you. She was being more realistic there.
Yeah.
She wasn't being fulfilled with a bunch of false hope in that time, which allowed her to actually make better choices. A lot of times family members and loved ones, we're instilled with what I would say is false hope, which clouds our judgment to the point of enabling. It makes us do things that we otherwise shouldn't do. We have this false hope, this false reality that we can control the situation, that we can prevent the other shoe from dropping. And it makes us do these things, whatever those things are. And your mom probably had that for a period of time.
Well, think about it. Oh, I hope Ben doesn't show up to the wedding hammered or on our family cruise gets arrested or something. Like she realistically knew I was going to be under the influence. So she wasn't let down. And I'm just saying that in the respect that, again, like you were talking about, my mom knew the chances that I was going to be sober were pretty slim. And when she chose to spend time with me, because she has a choice, when she chose to spend time with me, it was exactly that. I'm going to spend time with my kid, whether he's high or not. And it kind of is what it is. But she took it for what it was because she didn't know how much time she had left with me.
Yeah, and when we can get to that place of being able to think more realistically, then history can probably oftentimes prove that we don't have control over this. And if we don't have control over it, we know we didn't cause it and we can't cure it. It's going to force us to think more realistically.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can think more realistically and we can think with more of a clear mind and obviously seek wise counsel in these situations, 9 times out of 10, it challenges us to do things in a completely different way than we're used to. The rent that we would normally pay, we no longer pay. The car insurance that we would normally pay, we no longer pay. The babysitting the kids for whatever, that we no longer do that. Fill in the blank. Anything that kind of can enable their addiction to go on longer. But that only comes with realistic thinking. The fourth thing is really understanding the difference between trust and enabling. And what does this mean? I trust you to do the right thing, but I'm not going to enable you to do the wrong thing. And this, I think, comes with time. How many times do we see in the treatment process somebody get 30 or 60 days clean under their belt, and next thing you know, mom and dad are buying them a new car or, showering them with gifts and I'm so proud of you and all that stuff. When that actually works that works against the whole entire process. Because if and when the other shoe does drop, you have now set the expectation that there is some sort of reward at the other end of 30 or 60 or 90 days of sobriety. And whether or not they're 22 years old or 2 years old, they're still a child because they've been operating as a child for a long time. This is more for younger adults.
And now they have the resources to do a better job, even better job getting high. For instance, you said like, oh, they finished 60 days, so they get them a car. Guess what? They relapse. Now they have a car to get around to the drug dealers. It goes back to, and I talk about this all the time. Don't steal their thunder, so to speak. Don't steal from them the opportunity to rise. We've touched on it time and time again. Like an addict alcoholic doing the right thing with 30, 60, 90 days can start working towards these things to acquire them for themselves. And then they're less likely to give up their sobriety because they work so damn hard for it. Versus, hey, congratulations, you just sat in treatment for 60 days. You're sober, now I'm going to give you a car. Guess what? They did no work for that car beyond what is expected in treatment, which, I'm in recovery, so I can say it, but congratulations.
Yeah.
You're not drinking or drugging alcoholically. Like, welcome to adulthood and real responsibility. Like, you're sober, which you should have been the whole time.
Yeah, it's almost one of those things like, why do you want to reward bad behavior? And I understand they're completing some form of treatment or whatever, but their only reason they're in treatment is because of bad behavior.
Yeah.
No,
like it's, I got Kai, my 7-year-old. He gets suspended for hitting people in school. Like, if I pick him up every day from school, hey, man, we're going to go do such and such. Congratulations, you didn't hit anybody today. Like, you shouldn't be hitting kids anyway.
Yeah.
Like, why am I rewarding you for something you shouldn't be doing in the first place?
Yeah, so I guess the takeaway from this point is don't be so quick to reward something that realistically they should be doing on their own.
Yeah.
And with their own willingness, Oftentimes when you're getting somebody into treatment, you're taking stuff away. So don't be so quick to give it back when they have, 5 minutes clean. In fact, you never have to get it back or give it back. And if you're the addict, you don't expect it back. My dad bought me brand new cars the whole entire time from the time I was able to drive legally until the day I went to treatment. For the most part, I had brand new cars, minus my first car. That wasn't brand new. That was like a 1986 Chevy Cavalier or something, or 1996 Chevy Cavalier. This thing was a hunk of junk.
Was it gray?
It was like a grayish blue.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. I loved it. But anyways, when I went off to treatment, there were there was never another brand new car for me. In fact, there was nothing. He shipped me a bicycle and it got stolen like, I don't know, a month after I got it, but that was it. And he got pissed at me that I got the bike stolen. And he's like, I ain't getting you another one, you know? And so it forces us to have to work for this stuff. And when we work for this stuff and we actually put in the effort and we put in the reps, we're a lot less likely for the other shoe to drop.
How about rather than me enabling, I'm going to trust that you can do this on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plain and simple.
So the last one is just really breaking away from all this. You're in this perpetual state of fear. You're in this perpetual state of anxiety. Maybe your loved one has 6 months clean. Maybe they have 6 days clean or 6 years. At some point, you have to break away from this constant waiting for the other shoe to drop. How do you do that? Well, I'll ask you, Ben. What would be a suggestion?
Start working on yourself. Go to therapy. Go to Al-Anon. Take up hobbies. Go on with enjoying your life the way that you're supposed to. Like, once you've provided the opportunity for your loved one to get sober, a platform which most of our listeners have, they've generally gone to treatment at some point, whatever the circumstances may be. Like, you're supposed to start living your life for you. Because again, Tom, you just mentioned the 3 C's. You can't control it anyway. And you can't do it for them.
Right. I can't stress enough support.
Yeah.
I love all the other ideas that you have, the hobbies and the working on yourself and the therapy and stuff like that. Realistically, a therapist is an hour a week. Your hobby is only maybe, depending on what it is that you take up, your hobby isn't going to take up that much time, but your support group is going to take up as much time as you allow it to, and if you need them, they'll be there.
Facts.
Your hobby, isn't going to always be there. And there could be financial commitments to your hobbies. Your therapist, there's financial commitments to. But a support group, for the most part, I mean, it's funny I'm saying this, but our support group there's a financial commitment to. But Al-Anon is free. Going to your local church, talking to people there that have lived this, that have experienced it, that's free and that's invaluable. You're going to get so much out of that. So it's really living in this frame of mind of waiting for the other shoe to drop is like being in prison. It really is. We have a lady right now that's in our Family Reconnect program. Her name's Mary. And you could see she's starting to break out from this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to witness. It's cool to watch. She's made some decisions that we know from a mother's perspective are hard to make, but she's made them. And week after week, you could see she's able, and she recently moved, right? And so the physical home that she was in, there was a lot of bad memories tied to addiction with her son. And she recently moved, her and her husband. So they got a fresh start there. And you know what? I think she's really adopting this mindset that this is going to work out how it's supposed to. And there's not much I can do about it, and that's one of the most freeing places that you can be. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of nerve-wracking seeing family members in this because we know how easy it is to get out of it, but it's also easy for us to say.
Yeah. I'll throw this out there in conclusion. Like, you got to ask yourself, has my identity, my entire being and identity become living in fear that my loved one is going to relapse or whatever the case may be, even if they're an active addiction, like, is being the rescuer, has that become your whole identity? And the reason that I'm asking that, and I've touched on this before, but I haven't brought it up in a while, I think it's important to mention, like, in my personal experience, and you brought up my mom earlier, when I got sober and it became evident that the time was adding up and I was staying sober for a significant amount of time, I actually watched my mom go into depression and a loss of purpose because I was her whole identity. Her worrying about me, her living in her trauma response was all about me. And then once I got sober, she's like, who in the heck am I? So figure out who you are, what your purpose is and all that, and prior to your loved one getting sober. Because she went through like a depression and stuff like that. Like I took up so much of her time.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was fun, Ben.
Yes, sir.
Anything interesting going on the rest of the week?
Not that I could think of off the top of my head.
Family Reconnect tonight, 6:00 Eastern time. Should be a good night.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
Let's land this plane.
All right. That is it for this episode of Real Recovery Talk. Thank you for tuning in. In the end, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you could always reach us. info@realrecoverytalk.com. Again, that's info@realrecoverytalk.com. And ultimately, we want to help you turn your mess into your message. That is it. We will see y'all later.